Hello, YouTube. How is it going? How is your weekend? Yesterday, what did we even do yesterday? A bunch of errands. We went to Costco. I don't even remember what else. Today, I went to personal training and watched some TV. We went on a little walk and I sat in the backyard because it's pretty nice out here today. And we also had Domino's for dinner yesterday, and I had some leftovers for that today. And I love me some Domino's. Do you guys like Domino's? If so, what is your order? I'd like to know. So today I'm excited. Oh, hey, PH Actress. Nice to see ya. Today I'm excited to do a video that I've been seeing a lot of shorts on YouTube about this topic, and it's bonkers to me, and I thought it'd be fun for us to learn something new together. It's about the New York City rental apartment market. We're going to quickly look at the United States and Canada's definition of affordable housing, just so we can understand how outrageous some of these prices are that New York City apartments are going for, and just show that you can't really afford to live in the United States, or not in the United States, New York City. You can't really afford to live in New York City and be in an affordable housing unit. Something I thought of just now that would be a cool addition. Where do people find apartments in the US? New York City apartments for rent. I didn't even think of that. We can look at rental listings. Oh, I have so many friends here. I'll say hi in a second. I see. Yeah, because that would be a fun thing to add to the end. Okay, this is a perfect example. We'll do that at the end. Okay, this is going to be a good video. I can't wait. Lori said she can't make it today. No problem, Lori. Paige, actress Lisa, Coconut, Mr. Ranger Lab, Tori. Hey, Monica. Hi, Monica. And Tori's excited to catch a live. Yay! That's so exciting. Thank you for joining. I think this will be an interesting video for sure. Let's move the apartment listing thing to the beginning. Let's do that. Okay. We're going to look at affordable housing first. Then we are going to go on with the video. Same. So this is National League of Cities. And I wanted this to show what affordable housing actually means. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development defines affordable housing as on which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of gross income for housing costs, including utilities. Keeping housing costs below 30% of income is intended to ensure that households have enough money to pay for other non-discretionary costs. Therefore, policymakers consider households who spend more than 30% of income on housing costs to be housing cost burdened. That's everyone in the I keep saying United States, in New York City, pretty much. In reality, the definition of affordable housing is nebulous, with different programs and stakeholders often adapting their own slightly different definitions of what is considered affordable housing. I don't agree with the definition of it being 30% of before tax income, because we all know if you get paid $60,000, you don't actually have that amount of money to spend on housing. However, if we made it after tax income, I feel like it wouldn't be, at least in New York City, nothing would be considered affordable. Oh, it's annoying to find an apartment for sure. Even more so in New York City. Oh, how was vacation? I'm happy you're here. And we're not going to read all of this stuff. I just wanted us to know the 30% of after tax income. Let me just check this to make sure nothing weird is happening on this. It's not showing any of my personal information. No, we're good. Okay, let's share this tab. I just quickly typed in New York City rental apartments, and I found this. And I did not plan this part in advance, so it might not be super smooth. Okay. So in this place, 4650, a studio apartment starts at $3,150 and a two-bedroom apartment, this is per month, and a two-bedroom apartment goes up to $5,500. And I have no idea like what any of these areas mean. If you've ever had an experience looking for an apartment in New York City, please share it with us if you're comfortable. Yes. We're going to look at a few examples for sure. Oh no. I hope you guys are safe. Hopefully it's not too bad. Studio 1650. From what I saw, that is not expensive for New York City. Studio oh no. Studio 13,000 3,000 3,500 3-bedroom 8,000. Studio starting at 3,000, one bed starting at 5,200, studio starting at 4,000, studio starting at 3,300, 1,500, that's reasonable. One bed. So we get the gist. Oh, I just saw 8,000 for a 4-bedroom apartment. We get the gist. Let's filter. Oh wait, no, I didn't. Whatever. We get the gist. We get the gist. Oh, but look, friends, this one I accidentally made 8,500 the minimum rent. This one there's a studio for $8,500 per month. Let's move on to the next page. I'm in Virginia and I can get a 1-bedroom apartment for $1,300. My home in Florida mortgage is $18,000 plus for a 3-bed. Oh, you mean $1,800 plus? Yes. Yes. Outrageous. Completely outrageous. Oh, coconuts, are you in Seattle as well, or did you also have a bad thunderstorm? I hope you guys are okay. So I found this quick summary of NYC residential rental market report from July 2024. I don't know anything about this company. I just wanted us to have an understanding of how much rents typically are. Oh, so you guys must have had like the same storm. That's scary, especially if it's not regular, it's not frequent for Seattle. Okay. In Manhattan, rents again reached I can't talk. Let me try again. Reached an all-time high in July 2024, hitting a median of $4,670 a month, which was there was a 21% increase in the number of apartments on the market this July versus last year, meaning home seekers had more options from which to choose. While July's leasing activity increased when compared to June, it was still down 9%. We're going to learn how horrible it is to get an apartment in New York City. In Brooklyn, the median rent was $4,000. $4,000 a month. During July 2024, down 2% from June, but a 2% rise annually. And there were 24% more units on the market, mirroring conditions across the East River. Great. So we already learned this part. So the rent has increased by just a few dollars month over month. They rose 4% year over year. The median Manhattan rent has once again reached a new record high. Oh, the average rent in July, this Manhattan, a 3-bedroom apartment reached $10,205. Okay, let's look at Brooklyn. The median rent was $4,000, down 2% versus the $4,100 per month in June. However, rents rose 2% year over year Despite nearly 3 years of conservative annual median rent increases, the 2% year-over-year climb was the smallest change since October 2021. Now, I'm not stating that where I live is so cheap and like I would never see horribly expensive apartments because I lived in a studio apartment in a relatively nice building. I'd say like higher mid-range level, but it was in a really like sought after part of town. And I stopped living there 3 years ago, and I just looked back. I just looked on the what am I trying to say? Building website. The rent has gone up $300. The rent has gone up $300 in a year, in 3 years. So rent is going up everywhere, but I feel like I have never seen a unit priced at $4,000 where I live. Yeah, coconuts. Who can afford these prices? Nobody can. Oops. My hubby's sister lived in Florida, and our mortgage is less than half of the rent we pay in WA, Wisconsin. Is that? I don't know. I feel like Washington, right? Washington. I've been in my house for almost 4 years. My mortgage is about $610 a month. That's including taxes and insurance. Yay, I got it right. Washington. I have my actual home cheaper than what people are paying for rent in New York City. Yes. Yes. I found this next article super interesting. I feel like we're going through this really fast. This might be a quick stream. That's okay. It's hard when I do videos like this and I'm trying to look into a new topic. I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to talk about this for. And there's been times when I assume a video is going to be like an hour and a half and then it's like 40 minutes, or I assume it's going to be super short and then it's super long. I can never tell. I struggle with the predictions. Let me make sure nothing weird is on this. I found this article super interesting. I think it's really, really interesting. Okay. Share this tab. Okay, so this is called New York City's cutthroat and chaotic battle for rental apartments leave tenants desperate and defeated. An apartment I lived out changed their rates every, I assume, 3 years. With the market, we managed to rent a two. Pause. I just knocked my phone off the table. One sec. We managed to rent a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom for $1,900. The next week after we signed the lease, it was $2,500. Oh, you did mean every 3 days? What? That's outrageous. That's outrageous. Wow. Wow. We are lucky because we bought our house 25 years ago and it paid off the mortgage. I hate to be in the Seattle rental market right now. Oh, I don't doubt that. Oh, yeah, we're going to watch this video because it has some. Oh my God, that was so loud. It has some of the the YouTube shorts that got me like falling down the rabbit hole on this topic. Okay, ready?
Rosie, welcome. We have your whole studio space over there.
Captions off.
But look at this. Now I want you to guess, what the hell do you think is behind this? Now as we look there, if you had guessed it's a shower.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to lower the volume and it's not working now. Man. I don't want it to be so. There you go, 72. So that guy was showing an apartment, and there's some glass, weird ass looking fake wall in the middle of the apartment, and it was pretty much an open shower. After a shocked real estate agent shared a video of a $3,000 a month studio apartment in the city's ritzy Nolita neighborhood with a kitchen shower. Footage of the now notorious unit at 232 Elizabeth Street was uploaded to Instagram by OCR Realty and left some renters terrified of moving to the Big Apple. And this kitchen is awful. Horrible. Look at this kitchen. And I saw this exact video on YouTube, and he was so confused. He's like, there's already no counter space, but you just shove up your oven, you push it against the limited counter space, and you have even less access. And then to the right here is the kitchen shower. The kitchen shower, $3,000 a month. I'm shocked too that I assumed your 3 days was a typo and you meant 3 years. That's outrageous. Every 3 days. I'm glad that you guys got a semi-reasonable rate for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. That's shocking that it was $600 the next day. Right? $3,000. Remember that. I'm not sitting in the middle of the fucking camera. I could move the camera. No, I won't move the camera. The New York rental market should be presented to the Supreme Court for absolute audacity. Just the latest shockingly small NYC rental to blow up on social media after an 115 square foot unit in Manhattan with no sink hit the market for $1,200 a month in February. Excuse me. The smallest apartment I lived in was 380, 400 square feet, and that's small. That's small. I had a bed, a crappy couch, a table, a dresser, and a big IKEA shelf that that has little squares in it, and I put little drawers in there, and I put my clothes, right? That filled up the space. And that was 400 square feet. 115 square feet for $1,200 a month. You live in another city, you can get a whole ass 1-2-bedroom apartment for $1,200. I'm just assuming one can do that in the United States. I don't actually know, but in Canada, you can get a nice ass apartment for $1,200 a month.
Apartment. I cannot make this stuff up. This is everything. No bathroom, no.
That's it. That's $1,200 a month. No bathroom. I found in a lot of these kinds of apartments where it's just the room, you have to have a shared bathroom. I assume there's also a shared kitchen. But you can't fit a bed in there. Maybe you could. Maybe just a bed and you put your stuff in your closet.
Kitchen.
$2,300. Look at that. I'm getting mad. And in lots of places, for at least in Canada, $2,300 will get you a high-end, pretty fancy ass apartment. And remember, this probably doesn't include utilities. You have to pay utilities on top of that.
Welcome to my 80 square foot apartment that I paid $1,750 for.
This apartment's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps long.
My
So as
goodness.
we walk
That makes me so frustrated. With $1,200, you can get a comfortable 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment with a comfortable, fully equipped kitchen. Exactly. You feel me? Anywhere else, Monica says. I'm in Northeast Ohio, about an hour south of Cleveland. I have a coworker at one of my jobs who is moving into an apartment that is about 1,100 square feet for about $1,600 a month, and that's before any utility. Yeah, and I think in some places, nice big apartments, because over 1,000 square feet is a big apartment. Apartments of that size are going to cost more money, but she has lots of space, right? It's probably a nice apartment. Maybe the rental company is actually reasonable, right? Because I'm always down to pay more money if I have a good rental company who takes pride in their units. I was trying to move the mouse, but I forgot that it's connect it to a wire because I don't like having to reach so much. I'll just leave it. Hi, Tanya. It's nice to see ya. Okay, this is outrageous. The hunt for a New York City apartment has gone from frustrating to downright feral. My God, I'm struggling right now. I'm just going to turn my camera off for a second. I'm just uncomfortable and I'm like squished and nothing's like feeling good, you know? Yes, 1,100 square feet is fantastic. That's huge. Yay, I'm glad you're here and I hope we can provide you with a good distraction. This summer, renters are battling it out like never before, all for a shot at a roof over their heads in a city where landlords are calling the shots and jacking up prices to astronomical levels. Take Ariel Catron, a 29-year-old security engineer who braved the New York City jungle in search of a 2-bedroom in Bushwick. After a brutal month-long search and 52 viewings, Catron landed a rent-stabilized 4th-floor walk-up for $3,200 a month. Sorry. It wasn't her dream pad. It was missing a laundry room and elevator, but after losing a bidding war that saw a $2,800 unit shoot up to $3,600, she was just relieved to have a place to call home. Oh, that's not even that bad. Friends, I'm just going to go back to an original, separate. Okay, I can't talk. I'm going to go back to the apartment listing page quickly for Tanya here. Okay, Tanya, we saw this earlier. I just quickly. Can you guys hear me? Because it says I don't have audio, so tell me if you can't hear me. So this one, Tanya, 2-bedroom starts at $3,000. A studio starts at $3,100. Here's your reasonably priced studio. Oh, Tanya can hear. Good. Look, Tanya, $3,500 for a studio, $5,000 for a 1-bedroom, $4,000 for a studio, $4,000 for a studio. So yeah, the $3,200 is not even that bad. It's terrible for anywhere else, but New York City, shockingly, horrifyingly, it's actually reasonable, which is so strange. I agree. Completely agree. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys can hear me because that happens sometimes. It's like your browser lost connection to your mic. And then I always say, can you hear me? And everyone can hear me. StreamYards is lying. They're lying to me. People are willing to say, hey, if you give this apartment, I'll pay like $200, $500, $600 over asking for rent, she told Bloomberg, which reported on today's general rental scramble. I can't compete with that. But it's not just about losing bids. For Amber Melhose, 49, the stakes were even higher. Forced out of her Brooklyn pad when the landlord hiked the rent by $1,300 a month. Too much for her to handle after divorce, Melhouse's search for a smaller place turned into a horror show. At one studio viewing, she showed up a half hour early, only to find a line of 4 people ahead of her and a swarm forming behind her. The place was snatched up before she even had a chance to apply. Now she's crashing with friends, considering giving up her small pet care business, wondering if she'll have to leave New York City altogether. Oh, hey, Neil. Did I already say hi to you, Neil? I don't remember. I might have forgotten. Hi, Neil. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Where I live, they're like, hey, I want to see this apartment. And the landlord goes, cool, I'll meet you there. Then they show you the apartment. When we came to see this place, the landlord was a lovely guy. We walked around. He showed us everything. My husband and I went outside. We talked about it for 30 seconds. We're like, we love it. We want it. And then that was it. We didn't sign a lease that day, but right away he's like, of course, just fill out this application. I'll need to call your references, put in your salary, put in your income, and there you go. And that was it. And the application portion took like a minute each for each of us to just fill out our form. Outrageous. Oh, is it Bushwick? Bushwick, okay. Right, exactly. It should be illegal for sure. I have 400 square feet less than she does, and with all of my utilities, and I'm still coming in at about a little more than 600 a month less than she is. Oh, interesting. Oh, I'm sorry you're about to be evicted. That's terrible. Yeah, we're all sorry to hear that. Oh, I hope everything's going to be okay, but that's awful and stressful. I hope you enjoy this stream. I feel like this whole apartment hunt experience has put I feel like this whole apartment hunt experience has been a test of whether I'm meant to stay in New York. Like, is this New York's way of kicking me out? Mel House told the outlet, I don't want to leave because my whole life is here. I could understand that because you're in a city that you've lived in your whole life. You have all your friends, right? You have all your friends there. Your job is there. And you can't find a place to live, but you don't want to leave the city, right? It's terrible. Oh, I'm sorry, Tanya. I'm sorry to hear about your dad, too. That's terrible. You're welcome. And we're happy you're here. The savage rental market isn't just a collection of horror stories, it's the grim reality for thousands of New Yorkers this summer. Bidding wars, outrageous rents, and lines of desperate apartment hunters snaking around the block are the new normal. It already has been for several years. According to Jonathan Miller, president of appraisal firm Miller Samuel, the tables turned in favor of landlords right after the pandemic. Landlords resumed control, and landlords could dictate terms that were more and more favorable to them. And think about the ethics of this, right? Like, I understand landlords are, it's a business, right? Like, you need to be able to make a living, but one does not need to be charging $6,000, $5,000 for a little studio apartment to make a living. One should keep it reasonable. Keep it at a reasonable rate. That also makes it so you can continue to make money, right? Like, why are we making it so? What we're going to see in the next article is someone making $135,000 still cannot afford rent in the majority of they can't afford to rent the majority of New York City apartments. I can't talk. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to hear that, Tanya. That's really, really sad. We're happy you're here. And look at this. In fact, some of these tactics are straight up dirty tricks. Real estate agents are stoking bidding wars by underpricing apartments, pulling in hordes of hopefuls to open houses, and then picking the highest bidder or the tenant with the best financials. There are too many TikTok brokers now that are trying to do things to go viral. Douglas Element agent Kian Sinai told Bloomberg, at the end of the day, we're in the business of sales, but 80% of the rental market competition is real. I'm not sure. Anyone with experience in New York City, living in New York City, what do you think about what Monica is asking here? Here's an example of the bidding wars, like people lining up to see one apartment. And what do you do if, at least where I am, you have to give like 1 or 2 months, the landlord has to give 1 or 2 months notice. I don't remember exactly. If they say they want to sell the apartment you're living in, or they want to live in it themselves, 1 or 2 months, 2 at absolute maximum. What if you can't find a new apartment in 2 months? Like, what are you supposed to do? And how, the other person in this article said they went to 52 viewings. How are you supposed to go to 52 viewings and work? Right? Oh, the outskirts are cheaper but dangerous. That's assuming, yeah, that's not going to be a pain in the ass to go to and from work, to do life, to be able to live just outside the city. And It's a huge ass city. I wonder, does anyone know about how long it takes to commute into the city? I can't form sentences. I can't. I'm struggling. Oh, really? I bet you the tuition's outrageous in New York, New NYU. This summer, with recent grads flooding the market and mortgage rates so high that even the thought of home ownership is off the table, renters are in a pressure cooker. For some, like Cornell grad Matthew Braganza, the search for a pad became more grueling than the hunt for a job. Despite landing a solid accounting gig, Braganza had to jump through hoops, like providing personal references, his LinkedIn profile, and a cover letter just to stand out from the pack. After seeing nearly 100 apartments, he gave up on living solo and is now sharing a Lower East Side place with 3 roommates. I had a harder time finding an apartment than I did finding a job, Braganza said. I feel like I was competing with a million people. In my experience, I've always had to provide references of my past landlords, just so I think to call up and say, hey, has Heather ever missed her rent? Is Heather a reasonable tenant? Did she damage your property? But LinkedIn, a cover letter, that's outrageous. How are landlords judging people? I want to know that. Wow, I knew people that went to NYU and lived in New Jersey, and they were literally commuting 2+ hours each way. If you live in a nearby county in New Jersey, it could be as short as 20 minutes by bus. But in the rush hour traffic for the workday, it can sometimes be 1 to 2 hours. Oh no, that's awful. I got what you meant, Tanya. I saw commenting, but I read it as commuting. Yeah, fuck off, autocorrect. Agents like Thomas Hollingworth are taking full advantage of the desperation. For applicants with thin rental histories or limited incomes, he's demanding college transcripts. What if you just moved out of your parents' house and you don't have a rental history? What if your parents are helping you pay your rent, like what a lot of young adults have to do nowadays because rent is so expensive? You really are expecting people to attach their college transcripts to have a place to live? The most I ever did, as I said, a quick application form. And then this is just to be considered, a quick application form with rental references and like a phone number and email. That's all I had to do to be considered. Exactly. My goodness. If you were an A student, we're more likely to trust that you'll be successful in your job and be able to pay your rent. If you're a dropout or got all D's, we're going to be more cautious. But as we're going to see, no one can truly afford the rent if you go by the 30% income, the 30% of your pre-tax income going to rent. No one, unless you're making like $200,000, at least you can't afford an apartment by yourself. I can get to one job in about 10 minutes and the other in about 15. I have 2 Dollar Generals, a grocery store, and at least 3 gas stations in walking distance from my house. Ah, interesting. Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad to hear that. I'm not from New York City. Bayonne, New Jersey, at 20 minutes from downtown Manhattan. My rent is currently $1,000. Was $880 in 2016. It's outrageous how much rent is going up. It makes me sad. Here in Texas, you need to make 3 times the rent before you get handed an application. Do you mean monthly? Say it's $2,000 a month. Do you need to make $6,000 a month? Or is it 3 times of the total yearly rent? I used to commute to New York City for internships. The internships were great, but the commute was absolutely draining. But it can work out financially because you can get paid more in New York City, but have lower costs in New Jersey. Interesting. Who makes $6,000 monthly? That's outrageous. But don't think for a second that the bidding wars are entirely organic. Some brokers are playing dirty, holding back to back open houses and booking appointments just minutes apart, creating a frenzy that drives rents even higher. That's sketchy as fuck, sirs. Caldwell Bankers Warburg's Bill K admitted that these tactics almost always push offers above the asking price. It's that kind of strategy that's making New York's Wild West market more chaotic than ever. That's horrendous. I hope no one's proud of their role in this, of making people feel desperate and scared that they're not going to be able to afford a place to live. Someone thinking after divorce that they're going to have to leave the city they love that has their family and their life and their job. Like, that's horrible. Exactly, Mr. Ranger Lab. Many people are moving from New York City, New Jersey for the lower costs. So let's say the rent is $1,500. You need to make $4,500 a month. That's a lot. Isn't that a lot? I feel like that's a lot, isn't it? 4,500 times 12. 54. Not everyone's going to make $54,000 a year. It was easy for me to find roommates because what I was charged was always better than in the city. 1,000 would be what you'd pay to be a roommate in New York City, for sure. The rent madness, I'm uncomfortable still. The rent madness hit new heights in June when bidding wars exploded in Manhattan and Brooklyn, with nearly a quarter of new leases in both boroughs caught up in the frenzy. Hollingsworth put himself up a basic $2,000 fourth-floor walk-up studio in central Manhattan on 2nd Avenue and brought in 100 people and 20 applicants, eventually leasing to someone who offered $2,075 and was generally pleasant to work with. An applicant who bid just $25 more but proved difficult to deal with was passed over, sparing the landlord from a potentially troublesome tenant, Hollingsworth said. Okay, we're done. You can't always assume you know who a troublesome tenant's going to be. I understand landlords have to protect their investments, which are their properties, but you don't need to be making people jump through a hoop just to simply apply for a place to live. Some of these landlords are probably so thrilled that they're making so much money on their apartments by doing all these sneaky tricks. But what they're doing is scaring people, making someone think that they're not going to have a place to live, which is horrible and it's unethical, and we shouldn't be proud of that, right? Seems a little weird. You see the prices going up in your area? That's bad. I'm not going to say the cost of our apartment, of our place, but I keep banging my arm. We were lucky with the apartment, with the place that we found. It's a good size for us in a nice neighborhood, and it's a reasonable price. We're very happy with it, but it's not like that everywhere in the city. There are places that charge way more than they should, and there's always going to be people who want to live in luxury, fancy apartments, of course, but it's sad when the majority of the apartments, the vast majority, are luxury slash just way overpriced units that no one can actually afford. No one can afford this. If Canada wasn't so cold, I'd move there. Not all of Canada is cold all the time. Some of it, like some parts, are reasonable, like Vancouver, but Vancouver is also very expensive. I keep banging my elbow. New York tech workers make 135K on average, but can't afford the vast majority of rental apartments on the market. Okay. Rents in New York City rose more than 7 times as fast as wages this year. Yeah, the rent does not include the utilities majority of the time, but sometimes it does. At least in my city, they'll say all inclusive or includes power and heat or power and water, right? But in a lot of places, you have to pay all those prices separately. I'd move there anyway. I love the cold. Nice. I'm far away from the cold. Oh, fair. In some places, the cold's extreme. Most of the places, I'd say it's like relatively reasonable. But I'd say the coldest I've ever been in was actually minus 47 degrees Celsius, felt like minus 52 degrees Fahrenheit. That was the coldest I've ever felt. But that's very rare. Like, that was shocking, but it was horrible. I'd say the coldest that I felt like consistently was probably minus 30. No, that's still cold. Consistently, frequently, like minus 20 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry. No thanks, no way. As tech workers flood into the city, housing supply and high costs strain affordability for all. Even highly privileged tech workers making exorbitant amounts of money. 135K should be amazing. It should be so much money. But you can't. Okay, we're going to go into it. Housing costs in New York have long been unaffordable, but the Big Apple is breaking the worst kinds of records these days. Rents rose more than 7 times as fast as wages last year. Plus, more than half of New Yorkers are rent burdened, meaning they pay more than 30% of their before tax income on housing. 1 in 3 tenants spends more than half of their income on rent, while homelessness has spiked. Things are so bad that even tech workers who make some of the highest salaries of any profession are feeling the crunch. I was going to say the chunk, or feeling the chunk. Tech workers earning the industry's average salary of $135K a year can only afford defined as spending up to 30% of gross income on housing and upfront costs. 35% of rentals on the market in New York City last year, according to a report published on Tuesday. Okay, so I'm going to do 30% of $135,000. I need to turn off the fan though because it's making my nose run. And we're almost done, so I don't need the fan. $135,000, 30% is $40,500 divided by 12 is $3,375 a month before taxes. Oh my God, what was it? I shouldn't have X'd out. 3,300. We're going to go back to here. So these are workers making extremely high incomes. 3,300 is what's affordable for them. Remember that, okay? So they can't afford this unit. They wouldn't be able to afford this according to the 30% of your income on rent. They could afford this, could not afford this, could not afford this, could not afford that, could barely afford a studio here, could not afford a studio in this building. You see, $6,694 could not afford that, obviously. Like, who can afford $6,000? Let's do an experiment. What is 30% of 200,000? We're going to do some calculations. Times 30%. So 200,000. If you make $200,000, your affordable housing definition would be $5,000 a month. let's say 300, if you make $300,000 a year, then your affordable housing amount would be, sorry, 1 second, would be 7,500. So you could afford most of these. Let's just do minimum. So yeah, you could afford even a studio in this horribly expensive building. $9,000. Oh my God. You guys get the gist. So no one can afford this. Even if you make $300,000, you cannot afford this 8,500. So there's units out there that, based on the definition of affordable housing, people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year cannot afford it. That's crazy. You'd move to Toronto, Montreal, maybe Toronto. Cool. Oh, Montreal winter wasn't too bad. Just remember that coldest temp I've ever been in. It was a walk-in minus 70 Celsius freezer at work. I wasn't in there for long. I remember the metal toe plates on my safety shoes got very cold. Oh no. Yeah, when it was the minus 47, it doesn't even need to be that cold, but your eyes water and then your eyes get frozen shut, right? Because the water freezes within like 2 seconds. And then it like hurts to breathe, and then your nose hairs get frozen, and my whole poor husband, like the snow in his beard gets frozen, and he comes home with like actual ice in his poor beard, like ice, what's that called, whatever, I don't know, like the pointy ice things. I'm so eloquent today. I remember when my nose froze shut. That's so terrible. Almost 90% of New York City's tech jobs are located in Manhattan, where rents are the steepest. In that borough, the median asking rent was $4,000 and $3,500 for studios and one bedrooms. Entry-level tech workers made an average of $75,000 in 2023. Wonderful income, by the way, and could only afford 2.1% of studio and one-bedroom rental apartments in the city. In Manhattan, the number drops to 0.6% of studios and one bedrooms. The crunch around housing is incredibly widely felt, Julie Samuels, the president and executive director of Tech NYC, told Business Insider. If these tech employees can't afford housing, who can? Tech workers, defined in the report as those in computer and mathematical occupations, make the third highest average annual wages among occupational groups in the city. Meanwhile, those who work in management positions could afford 71% of rentals. And those apartments probably aren't in a great part of town either. As much as I hate the thought of living down south, I see why most people would choose to live there. Yeah, because the weather's nice, right? Okay, this is a lot. I don't know if I want to read all of that. New York has been the surge of growth in tech jobs. Okay. Samuel said she hears from tech companies concerned that many of their younger employees, particularly those who have kids, can't afford to stay in the city. Yeah, if you are extremely privileged with an extremely high salary, but you still can't afford an apartment big enough to house your children and your spouse, why would you stay there? Right? You would if it's like all your friends and family are there. But I'm just saying, I could see why people with children are worried about staying in New York. The average tech worker makes 50% more per year than the average worker in New York City. So these people are extremely well off, extremely privileged, and they can only afford a small portion of the rents in New York City. Right? None of us are convinced. New Yorkers who make the city's average could afford fewer than 5% of rentals. Those who work in healthcare support jobs and food serving preparation could afford the fewest homes. Half of the 22 occupation groups measured in the report could afford fewer than 1% of rentals. Firefighters, transportation workers, nurses, home care aides could afford less than 1% of rentals in the city. Moving from within the city is out of question for many. There are shockingly few homes even on the market. The city's home vacancy rate is just 1.4%, the lowest it's been in 50 years. The average New Yorker moving home spends $10,000 on upfront costs last year, not including hiring movers. Why is it so expensive to move within the city? And they have a plan to construct 800,000 new homes. It's great if you make new homes because your vacancy rate is shockingly low. But if you don't have rental controls in place, no one can afford to live there. Okay. My goodness. Oh my goodness. So I found a bunch of YouTube shorts that we're going to watch because this is what I found that made me go down the rabbit hole. The cost of living down south is comparable to the Midwest. Do you guys mean like southern United States or do you mean like South America? I'm not sure. I gave up on that years ago. It used to be my dream, and now nothing about it appeals to me that I just can't do. I can't do just a visit, and the price isn't worth it. Exactly. Oh. So you need to make $160,000 a year for a studio. Okay, Southern US. I thought so. Then I was like, wait, did they mean South America? But when you said that, I was like, they must mean Southern US. I wanted to show some that are actually quite nice that I would live in if I was living by myself because I have 4 here, 1 or 2 are bad and the other 2 are places I would live in. So this is a nice looking reasonable studio apartment where you need to make significantly over 100K a year to be able to even think about applying. For a long time, I wanted to live in New York City, but unless my income drastically changed, I couldn't justify that. I can't, most of my income going to shelter myself. Exactly. And there's also the fact that we need emergency funds. Like, what happens if our car breaks down, or we have a horrible health emergency, or we can't work for a while because we have a sick parent? We need to have emergency funds set aside too. And that's cute. I would live there for $4,000 in my, I'm going to be generous here, in my city for a high-end studio apartment of that size. A 2,000 would be an outrageous asking price, but I'm overestimating 2,000 at maximum, and that would be, there'd be some utilities included in that, but not every landlord will include utilities. So that's somewhere I would definitely live, but not for that price. $4,000 and you don't even have a separate bedroom. Yes. And transportation, healthcare, health insurance. Do jobs in the United States provide health insurance? I'm assuming they would because it's probably not all just like private companies, right? I don't know how that works. My rent is half my take-home pay as it is right now, and then it's just saved each month. Yeah. but I have no spouse, kids, pets, or plants. I do almost zero spending for fun. Yeah, exactly. When I was just out of school, I was not barely making any money, but I was a single person living in a tiny studio apartment, and I was very careful with my money. It's definitely possible if you don't, yeah, it depends on your job, exactly. If you don't have people depending on you for food and shelter. But if you do, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be spending so much of your income on your housing. Oh my God, that kitchen is terrible. The rest of the apartment is fine, but the kitchen is awful. $54.95. $54.95 a month for a reasonably decent 2-bedroom apartment with a tiny ass dumb little kitchen. And that's not even that nice. Like, I would live there. Maybe not with my spouse because I think they might be too small for us. But I would live there. Right? But I'm upset. I'm upset about this. God, I don't know what's happening. I realized I forgot to. What did I even just show you? Did you guys see this? Because I was watching it on my screen, but I don't think I was sharing it. I'm really sorry. Oh, most places do offer health insurance. Okay, gotcha. I might have fucked that up. That's okay. We can skip this one. I'm sorry. Whoops. Whoopsie. Your guys are probably like, what are you talking about? Like, what you're talking about a 2-bedroom apartment and you're not even showing us a 2-bedroom apartment? Right now, I just live to work. I'm trying to change that. But until then, I'm in survival mode. I wish I could have a little more enjoyment in life right now, but it's just too risky. That's fair. I'm sorry to hear that. Long story short, I went through some things, but God willing, I won a New York Housing Connect lottery. I still have some other units still under review while I'm already in my new unit. A lot of buildings only have stand-up showers. I lucked out and have a tub in a beautiful bathroom. Oh, great, Greg. And it's lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I actually have the one I wanted to show you shared. Okay. Tiny. Tiny. How much is it though? You didn't tell us the cost. That's okay. Next. I'm struggling, man. I can't figure anything out right now. Okay, let's pause for a sec. I'm having issues. I'm having issues, friends. I sure am. There's one other thing I wanted to show you, but I might just skip it because nothing is working for me right now. Because there's one other one, but I lost it. Because it's not even the most outrageous one. Okay, I don't think it's meant to be. You guys get it, though. Okay, whatever. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. Sorry. I'm struggling. Because there was another one that was like tiny, tiny and outrageous. Let me just Google. Let me YouTube. New York City studio apartment. It's hot in here. Is it this one? Yes. Wow. Okay, this is the last one. I'm sorry this has not been smooth at all. I like the window in the bathroom. Was it actually a good window in the bathroom? Okay. So this studio, ready? 207 square feet. Let me stop. Okay.
107 square feet. It's located in central Harlem, and the price is $1,575 net. The gross rent is $1,900. The main entrance is right there. You'd put a bed over there, I guess, or a foldable couch. You have one window. The kitchen wraps around.
That kitchen is awful.
Refrigerator is here with some more storage. It's a nice renovated apartment, but it's a little on the small side.
So the point of that was I wanted to show that you can get an apartment for a reasonable price in New York City. You can. $1,500 is good. It's not horrible. It's not awful. But a 207 square foot apartment with the worst kitchen, you have no counter space at all. I'm sorry. I need counter space. I need counter space in my kitchen, even if it's not much. You could probably fit in a bed and that's it. For $1,500. We saw $1,500. We saw another studio apartment that was lovely. That was very cute. I would have lived there by myself. But for over $3,000 for a studio apartment. No, thank you. For me personally, with no dependents besides my 2 dogs and 2 cats, if I could afford it in my budget, it wouldn't be anything for me to spend $150 to $200 weekly for groceries and supplies. Gotcha. Oh, it's okay, Julie. Yeah, we're almost done. I don't usually go past an hour or much over an hour. Yeah, it's not even a full kitchenette. I think they have a stove and a fridge, but no counter space. Yes, you need an area to prep food. Maybe you'd put a board over your sink. Yeah, but it was good compared to other prices in New York City, and also like there are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments in every city in Canada. That's for $1,500, right? Like it is within the realm of a normal price, but a closet, pretty much a 200 square foot closet, should not be $1,500. That should be like $600. First, we shouldn't even be renting a place that's that small, but that should be $700 maybe. I'm assuming gross rent is, or net rent is before utilities, and the gross rent is after utilities, I think. I don't know for sure though, but that's a good question. So what did we learn today? We learned that the New York City rental market is absolutely outrageous. We learned that very few people can actually afford to live in New York City apartments, even if you are extremely privileged when you make $135,000 a month. You cannot afford to live in every single apartment. You could probably, depending on where you work, you could probably afford a studio apartment. We learned that for a certain studio that we looked at, that was $4,000 a month in rent, you had to make $160K to even be considered. We learned that the landlords have methods to artificially bump up the prices. They'll book 20 people in a showing at the same time. They will underprice the unit in the listing so people run to view it. And then when everyone's there, there's a sense of urgency. There is worry that you're going to miss out on this great place. Then they're going to hike the price, and you're going to feel pressured and worried and scared that you're not going to have a place to live, and you could potentially end up spending way more than you should be. We also learned that you have to jump through horrendous hoops. You have to give your transcript sometimes. You need references. You need a cover letter. And for some people, it's harder to find a place to live than it is to find a job. Yes, I think I will stay at my place for a while yet. Same, Mr. Ranger Lab. Yes, don't live in New York City. If I was home even less than I am now, it would be okay, but far from ideal. Do you mean that last apartment? For sure, for sure. Like, say if you worked 16-hour days, right? And you had one day off a week or something, and you only needed to sleep there occasionally and hang out a little bit here and there. Sure, I could see how that would be fine, but not for $1,600, $1,500, because I'm sure lots of people, they could, if they had free reign, you could make like a loft bed, and so you would have all the space on the floor. You could have a little couch or a little dresser, and you can make it cute, right? But in rental arrangements, you can't just loft a bed on the wall. You're going to get in trouble. I'm annoyed. Beyond storm chasing, don't live in Colorado either. It's untenable here. Oh, cool. And nice to see you. Thank you for joining our live. Oh, what did Monica? I'd rather live in a naval ship than in New York. At least it's free. Other than the touristy shit, NYC is a shithole overall, not with the rent. Exactly. I really appreciate all you guys being here and for being patient with me when I wasn't very eloquent. I couldn't find my words, and I was having YouTube issues when I was trying to show you guys the shorts. This was a really good video. I'm happy I picked this topic and you guys seemed to enjoy it, so that's awesome. I'll see you guys again on Wednesday. I don't really know what I'm going to do yet, but I will figure something out. I really appreciate everyone being here. I hope you have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Bye.